Bendigo is a city in Victoria, Australia, located very close to the geographical centre of the state and approximately 150 kilometres northwest of the state capital, Melbourne. Bendigo has an urban population of 82,794, making it the fourth largest inland city in Australia and fourth most populous city in the state. It is the administrative centre for the City of Greater Bendigo, which encompasses both the urban area and outlying towns spanning an area of approximately 3,000 square kilometres and over 111,000 people. The discovery of gold in the soils of Bendigo during the 1850s made it one of the most significant Victorian-era boom towns in Australia. News of the finds intensified the Victorian gold rush, bringing an influx of migrants to the city from around the world within a year and transforming it from a sheep station to a major settlement in the newly proclaimed colony of Victoria. Once the alluvial gold had been mined out, mining companies were formed to exploit the rich underground quartz reef gold. Since 1851, about 25 million ounces of gold have been extracted from Bendigo's gold mines, making it the highest-producing goldfield in Australia in the 19th century and the largest gold mining economy in eastern Australia. It is also notable for its Victorian architectural heritage. The city took its name from the Bendigo Creek, and its residents from the earliest days of the goldrush have been called Bendigonians. Although the town flourished in its beginnings as a result of the discovery of gold, it experienced a reversal of fortune in the early 20th century. However, its growth accelerated in the post-war years and has continued to increase steadily since. Bendigo is the largest finance centre in Victoria outside of Melbourne, as home to Australia's only provincially headquartered retail bank, the Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, and the Bendigo Stock Exchange. History =Toponymy =. The current name of Bendigo dates to the Victorian gold rush as a shortened form of Bendigo Creek, the name originally given to the goldfields in November 1851, and also the name of the first post office, which opened on July 1, 1852. The Bendigo Creek extended downstream to its junction with Back Creek, which formed one of the borders of the squatting run known as Mount Alexander North. The first printed reference to the name is in the Government Gazette 1848, page 410, in a description of the Mount Alexander North run, and that referred to the creek as Bendigo Creek. The second printed reference to the name Bendigo Creek was in letters published on December 13, 1851, that had been written on December 9, 1851 by journalist and gold miner Henry Frensham. One letter headlined Mount Alexander, published in the Argus, and the other headlined Bendigo Creek Diggings, published in the Geelong Advertiser. In his letters, Frensham also used the pen name of Bendigo. The Bendigo Creek was named after Bendigo's hut, the hut of a shepherd with the nickname of Bendigo, who had resided at the creek during the 1840s. The shepherd was nicknamed after the Nottingham bare-knuckled boxing prize fighter William Abnego Thompson, generally known as Bendigo Thompson. It was reported that the shepherd, who was also the hut keeper, was some pugilistically inclined individual, and a fighting sailor. The former sailor, who had run away from his vessel, had been working on the ship that Thomas Myers had come to Port Phillip aboard. The shepherd sailor was given the nickname of Bendigo by Thomas Myers, who from August 1844 to July 1849 had been overseer on the Mount Alexander North run that at that time had been owned by Benjamin Heap and Richard Grice. The story was verified in a letter from Richard Grice by Mrs. W. Lauder from conversations that she had with Thomas Myers in 1852. And by the shepherd William Sandbach from conversations that he had with fellow shepherd, James Liston, who had lived on the Ravenswood run from 1841, in the time of Heap and Grice, to 1851 when gold was discovered at Bendigo Creek in the time of the subsequent owners, the Gibson brothers. Richard Grice was to write in 1878 that the reason for the choice of the name of Bendigo was that Tom, himself, was a bit of a dab with his fists, and great admirer of the boxer Bendigo. It was reported that the shepherd with the nickname of Bendigo later shot through to California when news of the gold rushes there reached Australia in the late 1840s. The town, which began to develop on the goldfield, was at first known as Bendigo, a shortened form of Bendigo Creek. Bendigo, however, although a popular name, was not in the earliest days of the settlement an official name. The town was at first officially named as Castleton, after the mining town of Castleton, Derbyshire in England, in a government notice dated December 2, 1852. This name, however, only lasted 6 weeks. In a second government notice, dated January 18, 1853, the name was changed to Saunchurst after the Royal Military Academy Saunchurst. The nickname of Bendigo, however, always remained popular. This is demonstrated in the name of the local newspaper which, from its establishment in 1854 until today, has been known as the Bendigo Advertiser. It is also demonstrated in the term Bendigonian, still used today for a resident of Bendigo, but also used for a resident of Bendigo during the time that Bendigo had the name of Saunchurst. After a plebiscite on April 28, 1891, which had been called as a direct result of agitation to have the old name back, the city was renamed on May 4, 1891 to the more popular original name of Bendigo, although the name Saunchurst has a legacy and is still used by a number of organisations such as the Saunchurst Football Club. The Roman Catholic diocese based in Bendigo is named the Diocese of Saunchurst. Indigenous background the original inhabitants of Greater Bendigo area were the clans of the Djadjawurrung people, also known as the Era people. They were regarded by other tribes as being a superior people, not only because of their rich hunting grounds but because from their area came a greenstone rock for their stone axes. Early Europeans described the Djadjawurrung as a strong, physically well-developed people and not belligerent. Nevertheless, the early years of European settlement in the Mount Alexander area were blooded by many clashes between intruder and dispossessed. European settlement Major Mitchell passed through the region in 1836. Following his discovery, the first squatters arrived in 1837 to establish vast sheep runs. The Bendigo Creek was part of the Mount Alexander North or Ravenswood Sheep Run. Discovery of gold Gold was found at Bendigo Creek in September 1851. The first persons to mine for gold at the Bendigo Creek were farmers and shepherds associated with the Ravenswood Run. They were soon joined by miners from the Forest Creek diggings. Henry Frensham, under the pen name of Bendigo, was the first to publicly write anything about gold mining at Bendigo Creek. It was Frensham's words, published in the Argus in December 1851, that were to announce the existence of the Bendigo goldfield. He was also the first person to deliver a quantity of payable gold from Bendigo to the authorities. In 1890 William Sandbach was to reminisce about the earliest days of gold mining on Bendigo Creek, stating that I have written this for the interested, dwelling in the once Bendigo, but now famous city. He recalled saying in January 1852 to his fellow shepherd James Lister Jim, "I should not wonder but what this one of these days will be a big diggings." He also quoted what is the earliest known poem written about the Bendigo goldfields that he had composed at that time: "Oh, lift your eyes, ye sighing sons of men. The long-fled golden age returns again. See. Youthful riches, with his yellow wand, touching the hills and valleys through the land." 1850s a Euro 1860s, Gold Rush Boomtown The Bendigo Gold Rush was at first treated as an extension of the Mount Alexander or Forest Creek Rush. By mid-December 1851 it was reported that hundreds of diggers had moved to Bendigo Creek, which was soon regarded as a goldfield in its own right. On April 27 the Court of Petty Sessions was established and a fortnight later a resident police magistrate was appointed. In June it is estimated that there were 40,000 diggers on the field, an extraordinary number bearing in mind that in February pre-gold rush Melbourne had a total population of only 23,000. Also by June 1852 a mail delivery service was established between Forest Creek and Bendigo Creek. The first official post office opened on July 1, 1852 under the name of Bendigo Creek. It was predated by the other goldfields post offices at Ballarat on November 1, 1851, at Forest Creek on March 1, 1852, and at Carisbrook on May 1, 1852. The post office was renamed from Bendigo Creek to Saunchurst on January 1, 1854 and then to Bendigo on May 8, 1891. Chinese people, in particular, were attracted to the Bendigo goldfields in great numbers, establishing a large Chinatown on a bountiful gold run to the northeast of the city at Emu Point. Within 10 years the Chinese miners and merchants made up 20% of the Bendigo population. While most of the Chinese gold miners returned home when the alluvial goldfields declined, a small population remained to form the Bendigo Chinese community, which has continued to influence the city. Other ethnic communities also developed, including the Germans at Ironbark Gully and the Irish at St Killian's. In 1853 there was a massive protest march by surface miners against the amount of the 30s gold license fee and the frequency, monthly, with which it was collected. This protest, the Red Ribbon Agitation, was peaceful because of the ability of the miners' leaders and the young Scots Police Commissioner, Joseph Anderson Panton. Predating the 1853 protest, on the evenings of 8th and 9th December 1851, when the diggers had only been on the Bendigo goldfield for 2 weeks, meetings were held to object to a government proposal to double the monthly gold license fee to 60s or £3. These were also peaceful meetings, as was a similar evening meeting at Forest Creek on December 8, and a larger daytime monster meeting at Forest Creek on December 15 that was attended by representatives from Bendigo, and it was reported about 15,000 out of the 25,000 diggers at Forest Creek. The number assembled for the second meeting in Bendigo on December 9, 1851 was reported to be gold diggers assembled to a man, except those engaged in looking after the tents numbering about 250. The names of men who were reported to have addressed the meeting were the political activist Captain John Harrison, the zoologist and mining engineer Count William Blandowski, the reporter Henry Frencham, the shepherd William Sandbach, Mr. Reagan, Mr. Moss, Mr. MacDonald, Mr. McGrath, and Dr. Russell. A third meeting was held at Bendigo Creek on January 1, 1852 after the government camp commissioner, Captain Dane, arrived to inspect the goldfield. This meeting was about wanting to continue to pay the monthly gold license fee in gold as hitherto had been the custom rather than in cash as the government was now requiring. The men reported to have addressed this meeting were William Sandbach, a Mr. Coombs, a Mr. Pete Mackenzie and a Mr. W. Gams. Bendigo quickly grew from a city of tents to become a substantial city with great public buildings. The first hospital was built in 1853, the first town plan was developed by 1854, the municipality was incorporated on April 24, 1855. The Bendigo Building Society began in 1858 in an effort to improve conditions on the Bendigo goldfields. The first town hall was commissioned in 1859. The municipality became a borough on September 11, 1863. Bendigo was connected to Melbourne by telegraph in 1857 and it was from Bendigo that the first message reporting the deaths of Burke and Wills was sent on June 29, 1861. The Bendigo Benevolent Asylum, now known as the Anne Caudle Centre, was erected in 1860. Frequent Cobb and Company coaches ran to Melbourne until the railway reached Bendigo in 1862. With the opening of the railway line the township grew rapidly. By the end of the first gold rush in the 1860s, the township had established flour mills, woolen mills, tanneries, quarries, foundries, eucalyptus oil production, food production industries and timber cutting. When the early discoveries of alluvial gold began to run out, the goldfields soon changed from small operations to major mines with deep shafts to mine the quartz-based gold. Mining companies were formed and numerous pit mines were sunk to exploit the underground ores which are found in elongated saddle quartz reefs and corrugated sedimentary rock. 1870s Euro 1890s, a city develops equals. Having made the transition from small mining town to a municipality and then a large and wealthy borough, the town was declared a city on July 21, 1871. Bendigo became established as a key centre for surrounding settlements. A mining boom in the 1870s helped the city to continue to grow rapidly. By the late 1870s Sonchurst had grown into a fine handsome town with nearly 28,000 residents in its urban area. Growth then continued at a slower rate through to 1900. Water supply was always a problem in Bendigo. This was partly solved with a system harnessing the waters of the Colburn River, designed by engineer Joseph Brady. Water first flowed through the viaduct in 1877. Bendigo from its earliest days has been one of the major Cornish Australian settlement areas. In 1881, 46.9% of fathers and 41.4% of mothers in Bendigo were born in Cornwall. This was in addition to those Cornish who were born in Australia or places as far afield as Mexico or Brazil. The Cornish in Bendigo outnumbered the combined strength of their Irish and Scottish counterparts. The architect William Charles Phelan left a major mark on Bendigo during this period. He is credited as innovating what was the most popular residential design of the period, low-cost cottages with verandas decorated in iron lace, which became a popular style right across Victoria. He transformed the Bendigo Town Hall between 1878 to 1886 into a grand building and designed more than 80 more public and private buildings, including the Alexandra Fountain, the Masonic Temple and the Mechanics' Institute and School of Mines, Fortuna Villa in Golden Square, the Law Courts, former post office and the expanded Shamrock Hotel in Pall Mall. A tram network began in 1890 and was used for public transport. 20th century. From the start of the 1900s, the population began to decline, especially in the rural areas. Significant population growth occurred in the post-war years. As gold mining operations were reduced, Bendigo from the 1930s consolidated as a manufacturing and regional service centre and continued to grow steadily. Gold mining continuing in some capacity until the last mine was closed in 1954. Growth has continued since the 1980s, aided by local economic and employment growth. Recent growth has been most heavily concentrated in areas such as Epsom, Kangaroo Flat, Strathdale and Strathfieldsaye. On April 7, 1994, the city of Bendigo was abolished and merged with the borough of Eaglehawk, the Huntly and Strathfieldsaye shires and the rural city of Marong to form the larger city of Greater Bendigo. 21st century. The population of the city increased from around 78,000 in 1991 to about 100,617 in 2012. Bendigo has consolidated its position as one of the fastest-growing regional centres in Victoria, with growth expected to continue, especially in the new development areas of Huntly, Jackass Flat, Maiden Gully and Strathfieldsaye. Land use. The city of Greater Bendigo includes Victoria's fourth-largest city in Bendigo, as well as a significant rural hinterland. Smaller townships are located at Exedale, Elmore, Gornong, Heathcote, Marong and Redesdale. The city encompasses a total land area of 3,000 square kilometres, of which a significant proportion is national park, regional park, reserve or bushland. Much of the rural land is used for agricultural purposes, including poultry and pig farming, sheep and cattle grazing and vineyards. Most of the city's retail space is in the Bendigo CBD or along the main roads. There is some industrial land use in the suburbs around the CBD. Major features. Major features of the city of Greater Bendigo include the Greater Bendigo National Park, the Heathcote Greytown National Park, the Bendigo Regional Park, Lake Epalok, Lake Wiaruna, Ironbark Lookout, One Tree Hill Lookout, the Bendigo CBD, Lancel Plaza, the Bendigo Regional Institute of TAFE, Monash University School of Rural Health, La Trobe University, Bendigo School of Nursing, Bendigo Hospital, Bendigo Art Gallery, Central Deborah Gold Mine, Discovery of Gold Monument, Campus Run Rural Discovery Centre, the Discovery Science and Technology Centre, the Bendigo Tramways Museum, the Golden Dragon Museum, the Chinese Gardens, Bendigo Pottery, Sweeney's Creek Pottery, Goldfields Mohair Farm, Heartlands Eucalyptus Factory, White Hills Botanic Gardens, Bendigo Racecourse, Diamond Hill Historic Reserve, the Campaspe River, the Great Stupa and numerous wineries. Urban centre. The central area of Bendigo consists of approximately 20 blocks of mixed-use area. The main street is the Midland Highway. The section running through the CBD is also known as Pall Mall, while the main shopping area is centred around Hargreaves Mall. Suburbs. The contiguous urban area of Bendigo covers approximately 82 kilometres. Two of the local government areas 48 kilometres. Bendigo has several suburbs, some of which were once independent satellite townships and many which extend into the surrounding bushland. Bendigo's suburbs include Ascot, California Gully, Eaglehawk North, East Bendigo, Epsom, Flora Hill, Golden Square, Golden Gully, Langley, Junor Town, Kangaroo Flat, Cannington, Long Gully, Maiden Gully, North Bendigo, Quarry Hill, Sailors Gully, Spring Gully, Strathdale, Strathfields, West Bendigo and White Hills. Architectural heritage equals. As a legacy of the gold boom, Bendigo has many ornate buildings built in a late Victorian colonial style. Many buildings are on the Victorian Heritage Register and registered by the National Trust of Australia. Prominent buildings include the Bendigo Town Hall, the Old Post Office, the Bendigo Law Courts, the Shamrock Hotel, the Institute of Technology and the Memorial Military Museum, all in the Second Empire style. The architect Phelan encouraged European artisans to emigrate to the Saunchurst goldfields and so create a Vienna of the South. Bendigo's Sacred Heart Cathedral, a large sandstone church, is the third largest cathedral in Australia and one of the largest cathedrals in the Southern Hemisphere. The main building was completed between 1896 and 1908 and the spire between 1954 and 1977. Fortuna Villa is a large surviving Victorian mansion, built for Christopher Ballastot and later owned by George Lancel. Many other examples of Bendigo's classical architecture rank amongst the finest classical commercial buildings in Australia and include the Colonial Bank Building and the former Masonic Hall, which is now a performing arts centre. Bendigo's Joss House, a historic temple, was built in the 1860s by Chinese miners and is the only surviving building of its kind in regional Victoria, which continues to be used as a place of worship. The historic Bendigo tram sheds and power station now house Bendigo's Tramway Museum. The Queen Elizabeth Oval still retains its ornate 1901 grandstand. Parks and gardens. The central city is skirted by Rosalind Park, a Victorian-style garden featuring statuary and a large blue stone viaduct. The main entrance corner of the park is on the intersection known as Charing Cross, formerly the intersection of two main tram lines. It features a large statue of Queen Victoria. The Charing Cross Road junction features the large ornate Alexandra fountain and is built on top of a wide bridge which spans the viaduct. The park elevates toward Camp Hill, which features a historic school and former mine Poppet Head. Further from the city is Lake Wiaruna, a large ornamental lake adjacent to the Bendigo Botanical Gardens, which opened in 1869. The gardens are home to many native species of animal including brush-tailed and ring-tailed possums, ducks, coots, purple swampfans, microbats, the grey-headed flying fox, several species of lizard, owls and the tawny frogmouth. Demographics, from preliminary ABS estimate. Economy, Bendigo is a large and growing service economy. The major industries are tourism, commerce, education and primary industries, with some significant engineering industries. Bendigo's growth is largely at the expense of small surrounding rural towns which in contrast are in steep decline. Tourism. Tourism is a major component of the Bendigo economy, generating over $364 million Australian dollars in 2008 September. Bendigo is popular with heritage tourists and cultural tourists with the focus of tourism on the city's gold rush history. Prominent attractions include the Central Deborah Gold Mine, the Bendigo Tramways, the Golden Dragon Museum, the Bendigo Pottery and the Great Stupa. Commerce. The main retail centre of Bendigo is the Central Business District, with the suburbs of Eaglehawk, Kangaroo Flat, Golden Square, Strathdale and Epsom also having shopping districts. The city is home to Australia's only provincial stock exchange, the Bendigo Stock Exchange, founded in the 1860s. The city is the home of the headquarters of the Bendigo Bank. Established in 1858 as a building society. It is now a large retail bank with community bank branches throughout Australia. The bank is headquartered in Bendigo and is a major employer in the city. Manufacturing. The City of Greater Bendigo community profile indicated that about 10.2% of the workforce were employed in manufacturing in 2011. After the Victorian gold rush, the introduction of deep quartz mining in Bendigo caused the development of a heavy manufacturing industry. Little of that now remains, but there is a large foundry which makes mining, train and other steel parts, and there is also a rubber factory. Thales Australia is an important heavy engineering company. Australia Defence Apparel is another key defence industry participant, making military and police uniforms and bulletproof vests. Intervet is an important biotechnology company, producing vaccines for animals. Education equals, the Bendigo Senior Secondary College is the largest VCE provider in the state. Catholic College Bendigo follows close after, which ranges from Year 7 €9 at the La Valla campus and 10 €12 at the Coolock campus. The Bendigo campus of La Trobe University is also a large and growing educational institution with over 5,000 undergraduates and postgraduates in its 5 faculties. Farming and agriculture equals, the surrounding area, or gold country, is quite harsh rocky land with scrubby regrowth vegetation. The Box Aron bark forest is used for timber and beekeeping. Sheep and cattle are grazed in the cleared areas. There are some large poultry and pig farms. Some relatively fertile areas are present along the rivers and creeks, where wheat and other crops such as canola are grown. The area produces premium wines, including Shiraz, from a growing viticulture industry. Salinity is a problem in many valleys, but is under control. There is a relatively small eucalyptus oil industry. Bendigo provides services to a large agricultural and grazing area on the Murray Plains to its north. Gold mining equals. One of the major revolutions in gold mining came when fields like Bendigo but also Ballarat, Ararat and the goldfields close to Mount Alexander turned out to have large gold deposits below the superficial alluvial deposits that had been mined out. Gold at Bendigo was found in quartz reef systems, hosted within highly deformed mudstones and sandstones, or were washed away into channels of ancient rivers. Tunnels as deep as 2,000 or even 3,000 feet were possible. Until overtaken in the 1890s by the Western Australia goldfields, Bendigo was the most productive Australian gold area, with a total production of over 20 million ounces. Over the 100-odd-year period from 1851 to 1954, the 3,600-hectare area which made up the Bendigo goldfield yielded 25 million ounces of gold. There is a large amount of gold still in the Bendigo goldfields, estimated to be at least as much again as what has been removed. The decline in mining was partly due to the depth of mines and the presence of water in the deep mines. Infrastructure transport equals. Bendigo is connected via the Calder Freeway to Melbourne, which is less than 2 hours by car. The remaining section of highway nearest Bendigo has been upgraded to dual carriageway standard, ensuring that motorists can travel up to speeds of 110 km/h for most of the journey. Many other regional centres are also connected to Melbourne via Bendigo, making it a gateway city in the transport of produce and materials from northern Victoria and the Murray to the Port of Melbourne and beyond. Bendigo acts as a major rail hub for northern Victoria, being at the junction of several lines including the Bendigo line which runs south to Melbourne and lines running north including the Swan Hill, Echuca and Eaglehawker-Inglewood lines. V-Line operates regular velocity passenger rail services to Melbourne's, with the shortest peak journeys taking approximately 91 minutes from Bendigo railway station. Generally, however, services take 2 hours or longer. While there are several rail stations in the urban area, only 2 other stations currently operated for passengers, Kangaroo Flat Railway Station on the Bendigo line and Eaglehawk Railway Station, the latter being the terminus for some services from Melbourne. There are also additional train services to and from Swan Hill and Echuca. The regional rail link promises more reliable services between Bendigo and Melbourne by providing some separation from the Melbourne Metropolitan Rail network. Victoria's electronic ticketing system, MyKey, was implemented on rail services between Eaglehawk and Melbourne on July 17, 2013. Bendigo is also served by an extensive bus network which radiates mostly from the CBD towards the suburbs. The city is also serviced by several taxi services. Trams in Bendigo have historically operated an extensive network as a form of public transport. However, the remains of the network was reduced to a tourist service in 1972. Short trials of commuter tram services were held in 2008 and 2009 with little ridership. The second, Take a Tram, proved more successful, running twice as long as the previous trial. By the end of the Take a Tram program, ridership had increased and was increasing. However, due to lack of government subsidy or backing, the program ended. Bendigo is served by the Bendigo Airport, which is located to the north of the city on the Midland Highway. The Bendigo Airport strategic plan was approved in 2010 for proposed infrastructure upgrades including runway extension and buildings to facilitate larger planes and the possibility of regular passenger services from major cities in other states. Health equals, the Bendigo Base Hospital is the city's largest hospital, only public hospital and a major regional hospital. St. John of God is the largest private hospital. Bendigo is also served by a privately owned smaller surgical facility, the Bendigo Day Surgery. Utilities equals, Bendigo is entitled to a portion of the water in Lake Epalok, an irrigation reservoir on the Campaspe River. Developments have led to the building of a pipeline from Oranga to Lake Epalok and thence to Bendigo in 2007. There is a dam called For A Bala. Culture and events. The Bendigo Art Gallery is one of Australia's oldest and largest regional art galleries. In March 2012, it hosted a royal visit from Princess Charlene of Monaco at the opening of an exhibition about Grace Kelly. The Capitol Theatre, originally the Masonic Temple, is located next to the Art Gallery in View Street and hosts performing arts and live music. It also hosts the annual Bendigo Writers' Festival, founded in 2012. Which runs across the second weekend in August each year. The Ulumbara Theatre was opened on April 16, 2015. It was originally the Saunchurst Old Bendigo Jail. The renovated theatre retains some original architectural features of the jail. The venue hosts performing arts and live music. It also acts as a ceremonial and teaching space for local secondary schools and universities. The city hosts the Bendigo National Swap Meet for car parts every year in early November. It is regarded as the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere and attracts people from all over Australia and the world. The city hosts the Victorian event of the annual Groove in the Moo Music Festival. It is held at the Bendigo Showgrounds and is usually held in late April or early May. The festival regularly sells out and brings many big Australian and international acts to the city. It also attracts thousands of people from around Victoria to the city for the weekend. The Bendigo Blues and Roots Music Festival has been taking place each November since 2011. With over 80 artists from all over Australia, the not-for-profit festival is hosted in many of the venues around Bendigo, and is headlined by a large family-friendly free concert held in Rosalind Park. The Bendigo Easter Festival is held each year and attracts tens of thousands of tourists to the city over the Easter long weekend. Attractions include parades, exhibitions and a street carnival. The Bendigo Queer Film Festival is one of Australia's few regional annual festivals celebrating the queer film genre. The BQFF started in 2004 and takes place in the second half of April. The Festival of Light is a multicultural celebration of peace and harmony inspired by the Buddha's birthday held in May each year since 2013 at the Great Stupa. The festival's program includes dancing and musical acts followed by a fireworks display at night. Media Bendigo is served by two newspapers, the Bendigo Advertiser and the Bendigo Weekly. There are also 7 locally based radio stations. Star FM, 3BO-FM and ABC Local Radio as well as the community radio stations Radio KLFM 96.5, Phoenix FM, 101.5 Fresh FM and Vision Australia Radio 3BPH Bendigo 88.7 Fathoms. Regular network television is broadcast in the Bendigo region by the Win, Prime, Southern Cross 10, ABC and SBS. Local programming consists of 30-minute weeknight news bulletins on Win and short news updates on Southern Cross 10. Prime Television maintains a sales office in Bendigo. On May 5, 2011, analogue television transmissions ceased in most areas of regional Victoria and some border regions including Bendigo and surrounding areas. All local free-to-air television services are now being broadcast in digital transmission only. This was done as part of the federal government's plan for digital terrestrial television in Australia, where all analogue television transmission is being gradually switched off and replaced with DVB-T transmission. Music There are several live music venues with local independent bands and artists performing on a regular basis. There are also several adult choirs and the Bendigo Youth Choir which often performs overseas, the Bendigo Symphony Orchestra, the Bendigo Symphonic Band, Bendigo and District Concert Band, several brass bands and 3 pipe bands. Musicians originally from Bendigo include Patrick Savage, a Eurofilm composer and former principal first violin of the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra in London. Australian Idol winner Kate D'Araugo grew up in Bendigo where her family still live. Sport Cricket and Australian rules football are the most popular sports in Bendigo. The Queen Elizabeth Oval hosts both sports. Bendigo Gold were a semi-professional Australian rules team that competed in the Victorian Football League until 2014. The Bendigo region is also home to the historic Bendigo Football League, a strong local Australian rules football competition. The Bendigo Cup is a prominent horse racing event. The Bendigo and District Cricket Association is the controlling body for 10 senior cricket clubs within the Bendigo area. The Emu Valley Cricket Association organises matches for 13 clubs around the Bendigo district, from Arrong in the north to Heathcote in the south. The Bendigo Madison is a large and notable cycling event, attracting international calibre cyclists. Bendigo hosts the richest professional running 400m in the world. Called the Black Opal, it is held in March each year and usually sees thousands of people at the venue with professional running races as well as cycling events over a 2-day carnival. The 400m Black Opal and 120m Bendigo Gift finals are conducted before the Bendigo Madison on the second night of the carnival. Tennis is popular in Bendigo with the Bendigo Tennis Association hosting local, state, national and international tournaments at its many court locations throughout the city. The 30 synthetic hardcourt Bendigo Bank Tennis Complex next to Lake Wiaruna is one of the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. The Bendigo Lawn Tennis Club also has 16 natural grass courts, one of the largest in the region. Swimming is a popular year-round sport in Bendigo. There are 2 competitive clubs, the Bendigo Hawks Aquatic Club and the Bendigo East Swimming Club. The home of the Bendigo Hawks Aquatic is located at the Peter Krenz Leisure Centre in Eaglehawk in the city's northwest. Among many other fitness and leisure facilities, the centre boasts Central Victoria's only 50m, heated indoor swimming pool. During the summer months the club also train and compete in their 50m outdoor pool at the Bendigo Aquatic Centre located in the heart of the city. Both pools provide for year-round training and competition for swimmers of all ages across the city of Greater Bendigo. A competition class 50m pool can also be found at the Bendigo East Aquatic Centre. Basketball is popular in Bendigo with professional men's and women's games played at the Bendigo Stadium. The stadium hosted basketball during the 2006 Commonwealth Games. Bendigo's men's team is called the Bendigo Braves and the women's team is called Bendigo Spirit. In both 2013 and 2014 the women's team won the Women's National Basketball League Championship. The city is also home to the Bendigo Basketball Association. Bendigo was the host to the second Commonwealth Youth Games, held from November 30 to December 3, 2004. Soccer. The Bendigo Amateur Soccer League consists of 10 teams which organise and manage soccer for over 3,000 juniors and seniors in central Victoria. Bendigo is also home to the largest junior soccer club in Victoria, the Strathdale Soccer Club. Their home ground is Beaisha Park. Bendigo along with Swan Hill, Echuca and Mildura have a team in Football Federation Victoria's Summer League. The team is the Loddon Mallee FC. Rugby Union. The Bendigo Fighting Miners, founded in 1970, are the only team in Bendigo and compete in the Victorian Country Rugby Union competition which they won 4 years in a row from 2003 to 2006. Hockey. The CVHA Blazers represent Bendigo in hockey at state level in both male and female competitions. The Bendigo Raiders ice hockey team competes at both junior and senior levels within the Victorian Ice Hockey Association and is the only team to play that is located outside Melbourne. Ice skating. Bendigo's Ice Skating Club, the Ice Skating Club of Bendigo, was instrumental in organising regional and state skating competitions. The closure of the ice rink in 2010 has limited its activities. Baseball. There are 4 running clubs in the Bendigo area: the Eaglehawk Falcons, Bendigo East, the Maiden Gully Scots, and the Strathfield Sea Dodgers. Bendigo participates in the annual VPBL state championships held across the state. Orienteering. The Bendigo Orienteers Incorporated have hosted a variety of international carnivals, including the 1985 World Orienteering Championships and the World Masters Games Orienteering events in 2002. Bendigo has also hosted several Australian Orienteering Championships, including those held in September 2009. Volleyball. Bendigo has a very strong volleyball association, with 5 senior divisions, 5 junior divisions and 3 speak zone divisions. Competition is played on Thursday nights at the Bendigo Schweppes Centre and Sunday evenings. A number of players have represented Australia, including Caitlin Thwaites and Erin Ross in the women's team. Juniors to have represented Australia in 2007 at Euro 8 include Jason Hughes, James Windsor, Rhiannon Judd and Carly Hines. Other juniors to have represented Australia outside of 2007-8 include Lauren McKenzie and Laura Roberts. All of these players were previously members of the Bendigo Bank Academy of Sport for Volleyball. In 2007, the Bendigo Volleyball Association was awarded the Event of the Year for 2006 July by the AVL for its hosting of the Australia v Argentina Volleyball Test. Lacrosse. The Bendigo Lacrosse Club is Australia's newest lacrosse club, having been officially formed in 2008. The club is based at the La Trobe University Bendigo Athletics track. In 2010, the club participated in the Lacrosse Victoria competition for the first time, in the Division 3 senior level. The club is also looking to establish a local junior competition and encourages anyone interested in lacrosse to get involved. It is the first time in over 40 years that a lacrosse club has been active in regional Australia. Snooker. As of 2011, Bendigo has played host to a ranking World Snooker Tour event, a Euro, the Australian Goldfields Open. The 2011 tournament took place from 18 to July 24 and was won by Stuart Bingham. Bendigo has a horse racing club, the Bendigo Jockey Club, which schedules around 22 race meetings a year at its Epsom track, including the Bendigo Cup meeting in late October. Elmer Racing Club also hold their only meeting here in March. The Bendigo Harness Racing Club holds regular meetings at its racetrack at Lord's Raceway on McIver Highway, Junor Town. The Bendigo Greyhound Racing Club also holds regular meetings at Lord's Raceway. Golfers play at the course of the Bendigo Golf Club on Golf Course Road in the suburb of Epsom, or at the course of the Quarry Hill Golf Club on Houston Street. Environment. The city is surrounded by components of the Greater Bendigo National Park, as well as the Bendigo Box Arronbark Region Important Bird Area, identified as such by BirdLife International because of its importance for swift parrots and other woodland birds. A dozen species of insect-eating bats and the pollinating grey-headed flying fox inhabit the area. Climate. Bendigo experiences an oceanic climate, typically dry and mild with cool to cold winters. High temperatures are usually recorded during the beginning and end of the year, with the rest of the year experiencing moderate temperatures. Bendigo gets 109.9 clear days annually. The mean minimum temperature in January is 14.3 degrees Celsius and the maximum 28.7 degrees Celsius, although temperatures above 35 degrees Celsius are commonly reached. The highest temperature officially recorded was 45.4 degrees Celsius, during the early 2009 southeastern Australia heatwave. There is also a disputed recording of 47.4 degrees Celsius. The mean minimum temperature in July is 3.5 degrees Celsius and winter minima of below 0 degrees Celsius have been recorded frequently. Mean maximum winter temperatures in July are 12.1 degrees Celsius. Most of the city's annual rainfall of 582.1 mm falls between April and October. Snowfalls are virtually unknown. However, frosts can be a common occurrence during the winter months. Extreme weather events. A series of great floods occurred in Bendigo in 1859. Substantial flooding also occurred in 1903. Tornadoes have been seen around the area of Bendigo and, although rare, the 2003 Bendigo tornado passed through Eaglehook and other parts of the city, causing major damage to homes and businesses. Bendigo was in severe drought from 2006 to 2010, and during this time the city had some of the harshest water restrictions in Australia, with no watering outside the household. Heavy rains from the middle to later months of 2010 filled most reservoirs to capacity, and only wasteful water use is currently banned. Bendigo was affected by the Black Saturday bushfires in 2009. A fire to the west of the city burned out 500 hectares. The fire broke out at about 4:30 p.m. on the afternoon of February 7, and burned through Long Gully and Eaglehawk, coming within 2 kilometres of central Bendigo, before it was brought under control late on February 8. It destroyed approximately 58 houses in Bendigo's western suburbs, and damaged an electricity transmission line, resulting in blackouts to substantial parts of the city. There was one fatality from the fire. Flash floods occurred across Bendigo during 2010, the first in March and the most severe at the beginning of September. Sister cities: Penzance, Cornwall, United Kingdom; Los Altos, California, United States; Tianshui, Gansu, China. Notable residents. Politics: Sir John Quick, Protectionist Party MP for Bendigo, 1901–1913. Knighted on January 1, 1901 for his contribution to federation. John Bannon, Labour Premier of South Australia, 1982–1992. Frank Brennan, Federal Attorney General, 1929–31. Tom Brennan, older brother of Frank and Federal UAP Senator, 1931–37. John Brumby, Labour Premier of Victoria, 2007–2010. John Gunn, Labour Premier of South Australia, 1924–26, Edward Heatman, Federal Labour politician, 1917–1919, John Lutie, Labour Party member of the West Australian Parliament, 1917–1932, Peter Ryan, current leader of the Victorian National Party, Sport, Nathan Brown, Wayne Campbell, Nick Dal Santo, Eric Fleming, Trevor Keogh, Barry Muller, Troy Selwood, Adam Selwood, Joel Selwood, Scott Selwood, Jeff Southby, Colin Sylvia, Brian Walsh, Greg Williams. AFL players: Don Blackie, Test cricketer; Christine Enville, professional bodybuilder; Hannah Every Hall, rower; Christy Harrower, national basketballer; Stephen Huss, 2005 Wimbledon men's doubles champion; Faith Leach, Olympic swimming champion; Billy Murdoch, Australian Test cricket captain; Ricky Nixon, sports agent and former AFL footballer; Lal Najal, Australian Test cricketer; Glenn Saville, Australian and NBL basketballer; Ben Hunt, NCAA, NBA and NBL basketballer; Craig White, English cricket player; Cheryl McMahon, Australian netball team captain; Melbourne Vixens captain; Arts, Bunny Brooke, TV actress; Kate D'Araugo, 2005 Australian Idol winner; Colleen Hewitt, singer and actress; Keith Lamb, lead singer of Hush; Ernest Moffitt, artist; William Moore, art and drama critic; William David Murdoch, concert pianist; John Bernard O'Hara, poet and schoolmaster; Alfred Henry O'Keefe, artist; Ian Rillan, bass guitarist with Rose Tattoo; Russell Jack, founder and director of the Golden Dragon Museum; May Maxwell, actor; science: John Irvin Hunter, professor of anatomy; Struan Sutherland, anti-venin researcher; Geoffrey Watson, professor of statistics; Frank Milne, professor of economics, business; Frank Masoncrow, inventor of the Chico roll; Sidney Meyer, philanthropist and founder of the Meyer chain of department stores; religion: Sidney James Kirkby, Anglican bishop; military: Carl Jess, Australian Army Lieutenant General; John Campbell Ross, last Australian World War I veteran; Sir Gilbert Dyett, long-serving president of the Returned and Services League of Australia. See also, List of mayors of Bendigo, Bendigo Easter Festival, HM Prison Bendigo. Bendigo Senior Secondary College, Flora Hill Secondary College, Golden Square Secondary College, Catholic College Bendigo, 2003 Bendigo Tornado. References. External links: Bendigo Economic Profile, Bendigo Tramways, Bendigo Visitor Information and Interpretive Centre, City of Greater Bendigo website, City of Greater Bendigo Community Profile, Euro Population, Employment, Maps, Forecasts and Economy, Victorian Heritage Register, Heritage Victoria, Bendigo Visitor Guide, Zal, Geoffrey, 1986. Mackey, Sir John E. Manuel. Australian Dictionary of Biography. Australian Dictionary of Biography. Retrieved March 30, 2015.